Turks get no respect. We wipe you out like Biden did student debt.
Okay, no, I didn't expect that either. I didn't expect wrestlers to mention topical political developments, let alone to be giving Brandon himself positive credit on wrestling, Jordan. We're gonna get into some of the new details about the plan that have come out since the initial dump of details. But I wasn't expecting AEW to weigh in on this. What do you think?
I wasn't either. I'm not a wrestling fan.
You're not.
I've got friends. No,
I would have expected.
Not at all.
You know, interesting. Okay.
I tangentially follow. I have a couple friends who are like obsessed with it, and then there's one guy in WWE who has like really great politics, Sami Zayn, and I really like him just because he's like really outspoken about his politics. So I like that, but that's like it. It just shows that like this is popular though, that they're name checking this in a show like immediately on the heels of it happening to an audience that would largely, it would resonate with. Yeah. From what I understand though, like the wrestling audience, it leans and skews left. It's deeply working class. I think people also dismiss it because of that. So I think there's definitely a little bit of classism in how people perceive wrestling, but it's just kind of fun, mindless entertainment for blue collar folks. And that this is something they chose to name check shows. This is popular. Like you were saying earlier, cancel another 10,000, lean into it. Like this is really, really popular. People love it and they want more.
Yeah, you could twist the whole Trump having been on the WWE. Joe should go in the ring and cancel 10,000 more. But anyway, yeah, I haven't watched wrestling in some time, but there was a period in high school where I was multiple times a week we were watching. I was super into it. So glad to see that, apparently politically somewhat allied. You should get that guy in Deep Dive, by the way. I think that would be a great show.
Sami Zayn, I wish. He's like huge. He's like one of their top. He's like a heel from what I understand. So they kind of like cast him as this like crazy Marxist guy. But I've talked to him on Twitter a bit, and he is genuine in his politics, and he does a ton of really great work. He's Syrian, and he does a ton of great work in real life, creating like health clinics for people there. He's awesome.
That's incredible. That's great news.
Yeah.
And this is a great example again, as you pointed out, like Democrats. Come on, like do popular things. It's great. Like you have an advantage in that. Because while many Democrats, elected Democrats, are fairly awful and pro-corporate and all that, like at least you're not seen as like crazy right-wing conservatives who are by their very nature incapable of being cool. Like you can try at least. It's tough. I know you don't like selling your accomplishments and everything, but I think it's worth it. Do more good stuff. But anyway, with that, I do want to turn to more of the accomplishments. The initial reporting on the student debt cancellation plan yesterday had some big top line numbers, 10K cancellation for people under a certain income level, an additional potentially 10K for those who had Pell loans, Pell Grants, I should say. Turns out though, there were some pretty important details that were not initially reported, which I kind of feel like should have been included there. And I want to make sure that people come away with an all-encompassing idea of the benefits in this bill, which is looking better now than it did yesterday. So here are some of those additional details. For one, for undergraduate loans, the amount that you will be expected to pay will be cut in half from 10% of your discretionary income to 5%. So these are details for people who are involved in what are known as income-based repayment or income-driven repayment plans, where the actual income you make determines exactly how much you pay. For people who generally have not as much in loans and also have lower amounts of income, now it'll be less of a burden every month. Also, the amount of income that is considered non-discretionary income is going to be changed. That also is going to effectively lower how much has to be paid. It'll be protected from repayment, so that is great news. Also, your loan balance will be forgiven after just 10 years of payments instead of 20 years. Now, that is for people with loan balances of $12,000 or less. So they were people who are already not the most burdened by loans, but for some of them, they had low income, so they would hit that cap. Now they'll hit it a lot faster, and the rest of the loans will be dispensed with. That is great news for people who are literally the most burdened by the loans that they have. So that's great news. as well as this, which seems like such a significant part of this, but the borrower's unpaid monthly interest will be covered. So effectively, and again, this is not for literally everyone, but as long as you are making those income-driven payments, there will be no additional interest which is levied against your account. And so in theory, while you might not be very quickly paying down the balance, it will not be endlessly growing at the same time, which if you're paying now for 10 years, like, okay, so they canceled $10,000. How many thousands of dollars is that lack of additional interest going to be worth? And so again, these are all parts of the plan. And look, when Biden came out and announced it, these were all available, but the details that they initially made available to like the New York Times, the Washington Post, I didn't see any of this in here. And I feel like these are really significant parts of the plan. But anyway, Jordan, I want to know what your overall impression of what was included and what wasn't is.
Yeah, I wish the debt cancellation amount was higher. I'm somebody, I've talked about this elsewhere. I have around $90,000 in student loan debt. And only a small part of it is from undergrad. Most of it's from graduate school. So that part's not surprising. But I did have a Pell Grant because my family didn't make a ton. So I qualified for 20,000. These, like the income driven repayment adjustment, cutting that in half is really, really big. Effectively ending interest on this is really, really great. One other thing that didn't get reported, and this is huge, and it was a really smart maneuver by Schumer to get it into the IRA, was not having the debt that was forgiven for people counting as income. And if you are in credit card debt and that gets written off, you default, whatever, that counts against your income at the end of the year. They circumvented that for student debt. That was so smart. So people now suddenly don't get hit with a huge tax bill at the end of the year because they got debt forgiveness. That was really smart foresight by Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate.
Yeah, and people were saying yesterday about that supposedly AOC was a big part of getting that put in. And thankfully it'll apply to this, but also it goes out to, I think, 2025. So in theory, there could be additional rounds of cancellation that would still apply to. So that could be a financial gift that keeps on giving. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.